This is On Hold with Lindiwe Ngongwane. Lindiwe Ngongwane. Lindiwe Ngongwane. On Hold with Lindiwe Ngongwane. Lindiwe Ngongwane. Lindiwe Ngongwane. On Hold with.
So typical to On Hold, we talk about conversations that obviously are top of mind for the week, and I bring them to you so that we can talk about it. So obviously also what I'm going to talk about today is a conversation that I have reflected on that I had with my colleagues this week. So we had a conversation, and as I was reflecting on it, I actually appreciated how much I have learned about life, cultures, people, from just living in different cities and towns and just moving around. And that appreciation mostly comes from where you get to appreciate exactly like the finer detail, the little things about a specific culture. So let me explain maybe how I visualize things in my head. For some reason, my head works better when I can see things. So think about a room with many windows. Each window has its own frame. So what I see, and it's a glass window, so it's all glass windows with different frames. We are looking inside, from the inside looking out into the world. But each frame represents each culture or a subculture that you can get. So you can imagine with the many cultures and subcultures, you can have a huge room with many windows and window frames. And to me, those windows represent, or those frames represent, how each culture or subculture views the world. Because we're all looking at the same world, which is outside. It's kind of like, what I see is there's kind of like a specific filter to the window that you see life as, if you understand what I mean. For example, maybe let's talk initiation, all right? So initiations, many cultures practice initiation. However, we don't see it the same way. Some people see it as something that is religious. Some people see it as something cultural and traditional and very sacred. Some cultures don't really see it as a big deal or anything. So as much as we're looking at the same thing, but the interpretation and how we see that is different depending on where we are standing. Okay, you know what I mean? So that's how I see these things. So I see the cultures and subcultures as different frames of windows that we are all standing in. And that it takes for me, obviously, depending on how and where I was raised and how I was raised, I would be much more comfortable in a specific window because it makes sense to me, because that's what I know, that's how I was raised, that's how I was taught. So what I really appreciated is that as I was moving from one town or one city to another, living in it, it actually allowed me to move from my window that I'm so used to into an uncomfortable state, into moving into other people's windows and seeing life through their lenses. But that wasn't easy because it comes with a lot of discomfort. I mean, you don't know much. You have to learn a lot. You have to unlearn. You start with judgment, with resistance, and with all of that. And I get visiting. Okay, when you visit a place, I get that you do get to understand a little bit about how the people live. But it's different when you have to live in the space. So I could tell the difference, because when you live in the space, you have to follow the norms. You don't have a choice about thinking about, okay, I can just know this, but I know that next month I don't have to know this part. It doesn't work like that. When you live in a space, when you learn something, you must keep it in your head, because you're going to use it to interpret or to kind of like operate in that space in the next week or month or next year or something like that. So it kind of forces you to go deeper into the understanding so that you can actually entrench that, and it becomes also your way of living. It's not like, oh yeah, I know, and then you leave. No, it has to become your way of living as well. So that's how I look at it. I am hoping you understand how I look at it. And maybe just to give you a bit of an example about my life and what actually I went through, or I discovered, or I learned. So I'll start when it's early ages, but I'll start when I was around for when I could remember, because younger ages I really couldn't remember the experience. So here I am, I'm living in Joburg. Joburg has a different vibe, a different way of living. I move to Polokwane. Culture shock. And I didn't even move to the rural areas of Polokwane. I moved into what I would call location, okay. So, but still there was a culture shock. First of all, I spoke Zulu only. I could not speak Sepedi. Now that's the first barrier. Hearing, understanding, and speaking the language. Then I went into a Sepedi school. I live around those the Sepedi speaking people. The games that people play. Children play maskitlana. I really do not know what they were saying, what they're talking about. You know, only to realize later that was creative storytelling. But I couldn't comprehend what they were doing and saying. I couldn't understand the games. All of that. It was difficult. Now you see cows passing by the gate. I don't know where they're coming from, where they're going. The last time I saw a cow was, I don't know where. You know, it was like a culture shock. So many things. The food they eat. Socially, what they appreciate, what they prioritize, the clothes they wear. It was different. It was very, very different. And it took time for me to fit in, to actually learn the language, understand the culture, be part of it. It took time. Okay, fine. Limpopo was Limpopo. Then I grew up. Then I moved to the Northwest. So, you know, now I'm a bit grown up, but I'm thinking, I've met people from Northwest and think I understand what's going on there. When I got there, it was not what I saw from a distance. It was also a proper culture shock for me. So the way Botswana live, and especially Rustenburg, so I realized that actually there's other subcultures, because then it's not the same. It's not the same. If you're in Mafeking, it's not the same as if you're in Rustenburg. You know, it's not the same. So I was predominantly in Rustenburg. Obviously, the language is also different. So words that I thought I knew were different. But at least knowing Sepedi helped me to actually transition. But I was asking a lot. Tradition, culture was different. At the time, I was being exposed to marriage as well. So customs that they do. I mean, I thought about it. I'm like, my sisters have gotten married. They never had to go through this. But I'm realizing I have to go through different things. When I had kids, the tradition and the culture, and everything was different, you know. So, but I had to accept it to be able to live it, because I needed to practice it. Okay, Rustenburg was different. Then I also lived in Pretoria. Now, Pretoria is another culture on its own. Also, the languages, they're not the same. It's Setswana, but it's not the same. Yes, obviously you'll get in because you speak Setswana, but the tone is not the same, the words are not the same, the culture is not the same. And I also realized that there are some traditions that are actually not the same, that are different from when I was in Rustenburg. And I had to ask people, so what does this mean? Why do people wear this so much? Why do people appreciate this? So that I can get the context of the area, because then I knew by me living there, I was going to have to be subjected to some of the practices that were going on there. Okay, Northwest was different. Where else did I move? Okay, I'm just thinking those that really gave me a culture shock. For some, at least I could adapt in between. Another culture shock was Cape Town. Cape Town is very, very different from the Northwest, Limpopo, from Gauteng. It's very different as well. Language was a thing. As much as I spoke Zulu, I did not speak Xhosa. It's not the same. Food, what is being eaten, the social life here is different. Parenting is different, because now I moved down with the children. So I realized I'm not parenting the same way I was parenting when I was in the Northwest. So that's different. So there's quite a lot, and I think for me it needed me to change and adapt, but also to drop judgment most of the time. And rather, when you ask because you are curious, to want to know, and because you want to be part of the traditions, of the customs, of the culture, of everything. Because I know already from moving around that when you ask, you're not asking because you're just asking for curiosity. Because, oh, okay, then you go back home. I live there, so I need to understand what is going on. So I appreciate that, because then that means that has allowed me to move from one window to another, to understand how people view life, how people see life, and from their own frame. What I've also realized is that it is also difficult for some people to move around into different frames and try and learn and stretch themselves. The comfort of being in your own frame is also there. And most people do not want to change. They don't want to learn any other language. They don't want to eat any other type of food. They don't want to experience anything else. In a way, if I also want to be non-judgmental, I guess that's still okay. It's their choice. However, it has also its limitations, because if you do not understand where people are coming from, it's difficult to appreciate them, and becomes a non-judgmental thing. You seem like you are a blocker. You don't want to listen to people, etc. Okay, and you only associate with people that only are like you, or have your values, or speak your language. So it kind of has that limitation. But yes, I've realized that some people don't want to change and will not change, not even to change, just to appreciate. And also, when I mean like appreciate, move from one minute to another to appreciate, I'm not saying pack your bags and go live in a different town. All I'm saying is listening without any judgment, listening to understand, listening because you want to appreciate what is going on, being curious, asking questions so that you can understand, not because you want to judge, but because you want to understand and appreciate, taking the time to experience, trying different things. I mean, we live around very diverse communities. It's very now simple to actually experience somebody else's culture without having to move anywhere. So even for where I live, I can experience other people's culture from where I'm sitting. I don't really have to go that far. So, but that open mind is needed so that we are able to at least appreciate one another. I think that will make things better. It will make us kinder. It will make us less judgmental. It will just get us to a better space where we understand each other. So yeah, I think that was in my mind, and appreciating what moving has actually afforded me, because I don't think I would have understood what I understand now. I would have been as open-minded as I am now. Obviously, earlier on when I started moving, getting into a new place, I was very resistant, you know, like, oh, I'd never do that. Oh, why would you guys do this? You know, but not anymore. I think I moved to a space with an open mind. I ask questions with an open mind. I am more honest about what I understand, what I don't. So I think I've grown up, guys. Like, I'm growing up. I've grown up. I've learned quite a lot. So that's that for this week. And I do encourage you also to listen and be curious with it, with an open mind, and try and, you know, get yourselves out of your comfort zone and understand different people and different places so that you can appreciate them a little bit more.